The silence wasn't accidental. It was a message, loud, calculated, and impossible to ignore, because when a father throws the most glittering gala of his legacy and invites the world, but not his own son, you have to ask yourself, what really happened behind those palace doors? After the Met Gala rejection and the quiet disappointment that followed, something even colder hit. Something closer. Something personal. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle weren't just ignored by Hollywood. They were shut out by the crown itself. King Charles III, the man whose approval once defined Harry's entire identity, made a choice, a deliberate one. And it didn't include them. They weren't invited, not overlooked, not forgotten, excluded. And while the King's Trust Global Gala lit up the night with celebrities, power players, and elite insiders, Harry and Meghan were left miles away, watching from a distance that suddenly felt much larger than geography.
And it's not just the Met. They were absent from all events during King Charles's US visit this week. Royal events, White House events, just a full clean sweep of not there.
Think about that for a second. This wasn't just any event. This was his father's legacy in motion, a room filled with influence, opportunity, and silent alliances. And yet, no seat for Harry, no place for Meghan, just an empty space where they once would have stood at the center of it all. But here's where it gets even more interesting, because this wasn't an isolated moment. This was a pattern forming in real time. The Met Gala, one of the most exclusive events in the world, came and went. No Meghan, no Harry, no red carpet moment, no headline-stealing entrance. And suddenly, the whispers got louder. Is it coincidence, or is it something much bigger?
The snub stings, particularly hard for the Duchess, who actually had a shot at attending this year's costume art-themed event, given that two of the co-chairs, Beyoncé and Venus Williams, have loose connections to her social circle.
Because behind the glitter and flashing cameras, there's a narrative quietly building, a reputation, a perception, the idea that wherever Harry and Meghan go, drama follows. And whether that's fair or not doesn't seem to matter anymore. What matters is how the people in power are responding to it. And right now, they're closing doors. The king, preparing for a polished, drama-free visit, didn't want distractions, didn't want headlines shifting away from his carefully curated image. And the simplest solution? Remove the risk entirely. No invite, no controversy, no questions. But what does that say about the relationship? Because this wasn't just about optics, this was about distance, emotional distance, strategic distance, a line quietly drawn between inside and outside. And Harry is no longer on the inside.
Look, we've got to talk about that couple formerly known as royals, Harry and Meghan. They love to share their innermost thoughts and they love media attention, don't they? So
picture the scene. A room filled with icons, glasses clinking, conversations flowing, the king moving effortlessly between guests, building connections, reinforcing influence. And yet, not a single moment spent acknowledging his own son, not even a symbolic gesture. That kind of silence, it speaks volumes. And then comes the question that no one can ignore. If his own father didn't extend an invitation, why would anyone else? Because these circles are connected. Power recognizes power. And when the royal stamp starts fading, so does access. Slowly at first, then all at once.
Wednesday's Global Gala marked the 50th anniversary of the King's Trust and included A-listers like Anna Wintour, Karlie Kloss, Donatella Versace, Martha Stewart, Meghan Fahy, Leo Woodall, Iman, and Nina Dobrev. It was also co-chaired by Lionel Richie, Edward Enninful, and Charlotte Tilbury. Photos from inside the celebration show Richie and the monarch shaking hands, as well as taking turns at the podium.
Harry's absence didn't feel accidental. It felt intentional, like a decision made long before the invitations were even printed. Because this gala, this was personal to the king, his charity, his reputation, his carefully built legacy. And invitations like that, they're not just about attendance, they're about trust, alignment, belonging. So what does it mean when you're not on that list anymore? It means something shifted, something broke, something that hasn't been repaired.
Buckingham Palace says Prince Harry and Meghan Markle will no longer be working members of the royal family. In a statement, Queen Elizabeth said Harry, Meghan, and Archie will always be loved members of my family, but she recognizes the challenges and intense scrutiny they've experienced. As a result, Meghan and Harry will no longer receive public funds and will no longer use their titles.
The palace has been unusually quiet lately, calm, controlled. Aside from the occasional scandal, the narrative has been stable, predictable, and inviting Harry and Meghan back into that space, that would change everything. Because whether intentional or not, they bring attention, headlines, questions the palace doesn't want to answer right now. And here's the twist, that one invitation could have changed everything for them. One appearance, one moment of acceptance. It could have reopened doors, fashion circles, philanthropy networks, high society connections, the kind of access that builds relevance again, but that didn't happen. And maybe that's the point. Because what we're seeing now isn't just distance, it's separation turning into something more permanent. Social distancing becoming institutional distancing, a shift from temporary fallout to something that feels final. And when you start connecting the dots, the interviews, the public statements, the projects, the decisions to step away, it begins to paint a different picture, one that doesn't look like a bold strategic move anymore, but something closer to a miscalculation, because the reality is changing, the invites are slowing, the access is shrinking, and without that royal connection, that invisible seal of approval, the world responds differently. Even Harry's own legacy projects, they feel the impact. Because royal backing isn't just symbolic, it's power, it's credibility, it's weight, and without it, everything becomes harder. The question now isn't just what happened, it's whether there's any way back. Because the distance between them isn't just physical anymore, it's emotional, strategic, public, and every missed invitation, every silent moment makes that gap just a little wider. So what happens when the doors don't just close, but stay closed? And more importantly, who decides when they open again? And here's where the story stops being just about missed invitations and starts feeling like something much deeper, much colder, and far more calculated. Because when you step back and look at the full picture, the pattern isn't just repeating, it's tightening. The space around Prince Harry and Meghan Markle isn't just shrinking socially, it's being redefined strategically by the very institution that once protected them. The reality is uncomfortable. While King Charles III and Prince William continue to move forward, attending state visits, shaking hands with world leaders, and reinforcing the image of a stable monarchy, Harry's world feels paused. Not entirely gone, not completely irrelevant, but suspended in this strange, in-between space where he still carries the name, but not the power that once came with it. And that difference? It's starting to show in ways that can't be ignored anymore, because once upon a time, Harry didn't need invitations. He was the invitation. His presence alone guaranteed attention, credibility, and significance. But now the rooms he once walked into effortlessly are quietly moving on without him. And the shift is subtle, almost polite, but devastatingly clear. He's no longer essential to those spaces, not politically, not socially, and perhaps most painfully, not even symbolically. And then there's the part no one wants to say out loud, the military identity that once defined him. Harry wasn't just a royal figurehead, he served. He built a reputation that went beyond titles and ceremonies. But even that part of his identity has started to fade from the public stage, not because it no longer matters, but because the platform that amplified it is no longer his. Ceremonial roles, remembrance events, moments that once reinforced his connection to duty and service, they're happening without him now. And every time they do, it quietly reinforces a new narrative, that the institution has moved on with or without him. But the tension doesn't stop there, because behind all of this, there's a deeper, more personal fracture, one that isn't about public appearances or social circles, but about something far more complicated: family. The relationship between Charles and Harry doesn't just feel distant, it feels stalled, frozen in a place where reconciliation is always talked about, always speculated on. but never actually happening. Meetings don't materialize, conversations don't progress, and even when they find themselves in the same country, the distance between them somehow feels greater than ever. And you have to wonder, is that distance intentional? Because in a system like the monarchy, nothing is ever truly accidental. Every appearance, every absence, every invitation, or lack of one, carries meaning. And right now, the message being sent is consistent, controlled, unmistakable. There's a clear boundary, and Harry is on the outside of it. Meanwhile, the contrast couldn't be sharper. The king's recent appearances have been described as smooth, successful, even triumphant. Carefully planned tours, well-received public engagements, and a narrative that feels steady and controlled. It's everything the monarchy needs right now. Stability, continuity, and a sense of forward momentum. And in that context, bringing Harry and Meghan back into the fold, even temporarily, risks disrupting that balance. Because like it or not, their presence changes the narrative. It shifts the focus. It invites questions the palace may not be ready or willing to answer. And then there's another layer, the optics of what Harry and Meghan have been doing since stepping away. The tours, the appearances, the carefully staged moments that, to many observers, feel strikingly similar to royal duties. And that's where things get complicated, because when they left, there was an understanding, a line drawn between being part of the institution and operating independently. But when those lines start to blur, it creates tension, not just publicly, but internally. And from the palace's perspective, that tension isn't something to encourage. It's something to contain. And perhaps that's exactly what we're witnessing now. Containment. Because when the crowds don't gather the way they used to, when the excitement feels muted, when public interest doesn't match the scale of the spectacle, it raises uncomfortable questions. Has the influence shifted? Has the appeal changed? Or was it always more dependent on the royal connection than anyone wanted to admit? And this is where the story turns from speculation into something more reflective. Because what once looked like a bold, liberating move, stepping away from royal life to build something bigger, now feels like it came with consequences that are still unfolding. Not all at once, not dramatically, but slowly, quietly, piece by piece. The missed gala, the absent red carpets, the fading institutional ties, the growing emotional distance, each one on its own might seem insignificant. But together, they form a pattern that's hard to ignore. And the most unsettling part? There's no clear resolution in sight, because reconciliation, if it happens, won't be public. It won't be announced with headlines or staged appearances. It will happen quietly, or not at all. And until then, every decision, every event, every absence will continue to be interpreted as another clue in a story that refuses to settle. So the question isn't just whether Harry and Meghan were excluded. That part is already clear. The real question is, what happens next when exclusion starts to feel permanent? Because doors can close quietly, but staying closed, that's a choice. And right now, all the signs suggest that choice is still being made, again and again and again.